I was consumed by the business. I was consumed by getting the goals. I was consumed by the next step. I was consumed because I was so hungry. Back then I had no experience and I had no language and I had no point of reference for what it was that I wanted. I was just picking anything. And I used to look at this and go, why is it, am I doing the wrong thing? Officially, welcome back to my channel. Today's episode, I'm a bit nervous. So in this episode, I've called it The Truth because I'm about to tell you the truth. I just wanted to address some misconceptions. So before I go forward, here is a misconception. They say that it takes about 2 years for a person to rebuild or to readapt to their new life after they leave Emirates. I'll be honest with you and like almost cringe when I say this, but I didn't think that that would apply to me. I thought that I was smarter than that. I thought that I was more prepared and just more like, I know where I'm going kind of thing. And then as it turns out, for me, it's been 5 years. I mean, I'll be honest, every year has been progress, but this is the year that it feels really good. I say that lightly because it's not like I haven't been enjoying the last 5 years, but this is the first year that I have utter clarity. And I truly don't think that this is exclusive to the fact that I did Emirates and then started my own thing. I think that after I left Emirates, it kind of like forced me into this journey of, I want to say like self-awareness. I've always talked about business. I've always talked about social media. But really it's like been personal development and self-awareness and spirituality in the guise of business. It's been my channel for all of those three things. But anyway, so let me just tell you the story, and then because it's easier if I tell you that. So we left in 2014. I say we because it's myself and my partner. He was flying for 9 years. After we left, we went to Peru. We did ayahuasca, which I don't even know if I'm really ready to talk about that. I've got another video where I mention that, but I don't know if I'm ready to talk about that. We did ayahuasca, went back to Dubai, hung out with friends. It was really nice and fun. I mean, when you've been working, you know, for 7 years straight, yes, even though we had holidays, you know, that moment that you become like not employed by an employer anymore, like you're not in a job, it's kind of like both a celebration. And guys, this is gonna be, I think it's gonna be a longer video, so get yourself a cup of tea if you haven't already, or a coffee or something. I even got myself a cup of tea, and I don't even drink tea, but maybe I do today. After we resigned, we probably fluffed around for about 3 months. Fluffed around being, we traveled without an agenda. Then went back to Australia, and it was all so strange. Like, this is my point of view. Again, before I continue, I have to let you know that now, like 5 years later, I now know that at the time that we had quit Emirates, I realized that I was experiencing some depression, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, which really became inflamed by the ayahuasca experience. That's why I say I don't know if I'm ready to talk about it yet. And anxiety. I didn't know these things at the time. I just thought that I was tired and I was ready to stop flying. There's a whole other video on that, which I also didn't think that I would do, but I did it. And that is in the description box of this video. I have to tell you that because, of course, the way that I saw the world at the time was very different from how I see the world now. And the way I see the world now is partially, I really attribute it to, I would say, healing, and being on a journey of personal development and self-awareness. I guess I started to say that because I'm not too sure what the label really is, but I know that I know that there's been a lot of healing, there's been a lot of peace, there's been a lot of processes, there's been a lot of therapy to get here, and also there's been a business that's been built in the background. Isn't that funny? I say business in the background when in my life I feel like business is in the foreground, but the growth of the business is really driven by all of the stuff in the background. And when I say things like therapy, please know that I also mean that kind of loosely, because I didn't go see a psychologist, I didn't see a psychiatrist. I took all forms of other types of therapy. I tried hypnotherapy, I had a wellness coach, I had a business coach, I've been through personal development courses, and I've read and listened to so many books that and videos that I don't even know the quantity of these things anymore. But all I know is that there's been a lot of conscious healing going on. So when I say therapy, it's really that. Now, so we left, here we go. We left and then came back, and I thought it was really strange. I'm from Adelaide, and if you're not from Australia and don't know where Adelaide is a 3-hour flight from Brisbane, which is where we live now. 2.5 to 3 hours flight. And so because when we were living in Dubai, I was really expecting that when we came back to Australia that I was going to be close to my family. And at the time I felt personally very lost. I didn't know who I was. I even used to cry, and I used to say like, I don't know who I am. Like, I don't know what's going on. I'm so confused. I used to say that out loud. I'd say, I'm so confused. I don't know what's going on. And that's how I felt every day. Yeah, I just didn't feel like myself. And so all I really wanted was to be around people who knew me, because I kind of figured that if I don't know myself, maybe I can hang out with people who know me and I can just be who I am at that time. When I realized that I had chosen to move here to Brisbane with my partner, you know, at the time that I said the words, I didn't realize the gravity of those words, that it meant that I was going to be far away from my family. I was pissed. That's how I felt. I felt like I was unaware of my decision. No, actually, no, I didn't feel like that. I felt like I was stripped of choice, when in fact it was my choice. And you can only imagine what that kind of does to a relationship, like when you blame someone. So that was a whole phase in itself. That phase was intense. So the first 2 years, it was the first year was the hardest, and that's because I was just so confused. I wasn't in a good place mentally, and I had expectations of what it was like to adapt to our country. I mean, I grew up in Australia. I thought that I was gonna like swoop right in and get a job, and I just didn't. I got a number of jobs that I thought I was too good for. I'm speaking like this in the way that I was thinking at the time, so this might trigger you. I don't know, it might make you angry, but I also need you to know that this is the frame of mind that I was operating in 5 years ago. So I took temporary jobs. At the same time I was doing photography, and on the side, that was kind of like, I don't know, I picked up a camera when I was in Dubai ages ago, and it was because I wanted to start an online boutique. Then I thought, oh, instead of hiring a photographer, I'll just take the photos myself. I ended up closing that online boutique and then kept my camera and then kept on shooting. So it was kind of like my fallback. So in between all of these random kind of jobs, which they weren't, I was not too good for them. I was definitely, I just, when in that position, I just needed to do what I needed to do, and nothing was ever going to be too good for me. But my mind, my ego thought that that was the case. I'm too good for this job. I don't need to be here. I don't want to be here. I'm smarter than this. Like, why am I here? Why did I give up flying and serving people when I'm here serving people? You know, I just thought that that wasn't going to be my life. And I was just so, it's like I offended myself. It's so weird. Anyway, moving forward from then, after about a year of just doing bits and pieces, like by that I mean different jobs, Billy said, hey babe, if like an airline opens up, would you go back into it? And I was like, no way, like I'll do anything but go back into the airline. And I feel like my deep feelings of not wanting to go back was probably related to how I felt about that environment, because it was the environment where I kind of lost myself. Okay, about Christmas, New Year's, after the first year, that's when I kind of got sick of feeling the way that I did. I got sick of feeling helpless. I got sick of feeling confused, and I got sick of everything being really unfamiliar. So anyway, this is us. We've gone way back to how this all began. I got a job at a call center here in Australia for an airline. It was a brand new call center. It was a new department, and that was perfect for me because a lot of the other jobs that I had done in the past, all the teams had already built friendships, and I always kind of felt like it was really hard to get in there. And maybe I didn't really want to get in there, I don't know, but I just found it challenging, and I thought, great, this is going to be an environment where, or an industry where I am accepted and my knowledge is highly valued, and I can make new friends because we're a whole new team. So I got really excited, and you wouldn't believe it. You know, I don't know what job you do, but this is a job where, you know, you go to the job and you know what to expect, and I was so happy for that. Like I would go to work every day, and I'd go to the coffee shop, and then I would just walk with a lot of joy and contentment because I was finally not confused, and I was like so grateful for it. And then one night, I was on a night shift, so it was like maybe 7 p.m. or something, and I was with one of my colleagues. It was just us two, and we went through Instagram and we saw this girl that I know, and this girl that I know had built a following, and I was like, oh my gosh, good for her. And then we found YouTube, and then we started stalking her on YouTube, and I was like, wow, like she literally, like, I know this person, and she started from nothing. From, like, when I say nothing, she had no online presence. She was like me. We were both cabin crew, you know, and she built something. But also know this, before I had these jobs, you know how I was saying I was doing photography on the side? I still was. I was actually doing photography for some businesses. Like there was a restaurant that I was shooting for, then I photographed children and babies, and you know, I would say yes to anything, even though I honestly did not know what I was doing most of the time. It was to build a portfolio. Now, in hindsight, I know what that served me. In hindsight, now that I see that, it's like, what that did for me is that it taught me what I like to shoot and what I don't like to shoot. And even though I found I was good at shooting some things, I just didn't want to, it wasn't my choice to shoot that any further. So I learned that, and this is why when I say, if you don't know what it is that you want to do, you need to go in there and you need to try it and do it. Not just think about it, not just write about it, but actually do it, because it's through those actions and behaviors you'll be like, oh, I like this, I don't like this. But anyway, gone off on a tangent. So along the people that I was photographing were Instagram models. You would not believe how, I mean, maybe you do believe, you would be amazed at how the universe works. One of the small businesses that I had started before I got the call center job was selling these like accessories at the markets. They're like these gold accessories, they're like tattoos, they're like gold tattoos, and they're really good for music festivals and just decorating yourself. Oh my god, I laugh when I think about the shit that I used to do. And it's not the shit, it's the stuff that I did, because I just, I was both resistant to working for someone, but also did want to work for someone, but those people did not want to hire me. So it was like saying, hey, like I wanted to work in marketing, and and now that I think about it, the people who I was applying to would probably think like, okay, you can evacuate like 400 plus people, I don't care, can you write a marketing campaign? Like, but at the time I was like, I just don't understand why these people, like I just couldn't understand why people didn't want to hire me. The people in the industry that I wanted to be in, I don't understand why they didn't want to hire me. So as a result, I was like, I would just do the things that I thought was fun. Anything that I saw on the internet that I thought was like 20% good and like 50% interesting, so it wasn't even 100% ever, I would try it. So when someone said to me that you could buy a product from China and then sell it, I bloody bought these gold tattoos from China in bulk. Like I had a few boxes, a few hundred of them, and that was the minimum order, and I would go to the markets and sell them. I was what? You want to, like, I need to tell you my age, because if you're watching this and you're like 25 feeling like you're behind, I was 30 when I did this. And maybe you're older than me, maybe you're like 45 looking at what I was doing thinking like, are you on the right track? Well, I was 30 when I did this. And yeah, and so I was like personally selling these tattoos. Anyway, so fast forward again. I'm gonna keep going backwards and forwards because this story has a lot of legs to it. Fast forward, that night I was at the call center and saw this YouTube channel, and I said, maybe I should do it. And I said to my best friend at the time, Eva, I said, I'm thinking about starting a YouTube channel. What do you think? And she's like, yeah, you should do it. She's just do it. Like, it'll be so good for you. Mind you, 5 years ago, social media wasn't as huge. It was nowhere near as huge as it was today. Like, people knew about YouTube and Instagram, and some people showed an interest in wanting to grow. But in comparison to now, I felt like it was only 10% of the people back then. And now it's more like way more. So anyway, I never watched YouTube before. I just thought, I like this space, and truly it's changed my life. And I should let you know, when I was photographing these influencers, like, I wasn't getting paid for it. I was doing it for experience and publicity. That was it. Because I wanted to grow my following, and by photographing influencers, they would tag me, and then I'd grow my Instagram. And it worked. And not just that, like, I was so I really didn't think about what people thought about me. That was one good thing about that time, is that I didn't really care what people thought about me in relation to the things that I did to build any kind of business. Whether it was selling these gold tattoos at $10 a tattoo at the markets, or it was starting a social media marketing agency, which of course was charging thousands of dollars per month to clients for a service. So I'm glad that I didn't think about people's opinions. I thought about, when I thought about people's opinions, and I think this is important for you to know, I used to think about what people's opinions based on the temporary jobs that I would get, and I thought that they would judge me for having those jobs. Because it's like, oh, you used to be an international flight attendant for one of the world's best airlines, and now you're doing this. I used to worry about that so much. Like, when I look at it now, it's like, Christine, who cares? Like, it's like good of you, it's smart of you, it's wise of you to do what you need to do while you're in that transitional phase. Like, it's not wise to care about what people think. So it was at this market that I was selling these gold tattoos, where I was approached by this food brand. Just, what was it for? To take some photos for their menu. They used to have food trucks. And then great, that was a skill that I had. So we ended up working together. And then later down the track, he goes to me, oh, there's this influencer, and she's an Instagram model. She works at my food truck. She needs a photographer. Are you interested in shooting her in exchange for her to give you some shout outs? And I was like, yeah. Anyway, she ends up being this amazing, like, Instagrammer now, who works with the best labels, like with dream labels. And it's amazing how I was connected via that, because it was through working with her that I really got a grasp of, okay, my camera finally died. Okay, so it was really through her that I got my first insight as to what it was like to make content for the internet and work with brands. But then, like I said, once I got that job, I kind of left all of these things behind. I let it, I let it settle. And then, until that one time I spoke with my friend. My friend was like, oh, you should start a YouTube channel. And I was like, how do I do that? I'm laughing because I'm thinking about how this went down. And she said, like, you can do it easy. She goes, just make sure you like, release one video a week and keep doing that. And she also even started a YouTube channel. So I took this really seriously. I started a YouTube channel, and it was easy for me to think of the topic. I just chose a topic which was very natural to me and easy for me to talk about, and at the same time could help a lot of people. I mean, that was the dream, right? And it still currently is to be able to do something that you love that also helps other people. And I would think back when I was deciding what content to make from my YouTube, I was like, what's the question that people ask me all the time? And then that way I can make a video about it, and then then they can watch it and it might help them. And I was like, oh, it's flight attending, duh. it also made sense. I wanted to share with the world like all the things that I learned from traveling for 7 years. You know, when you travel for 7 years and live out of hotels for 7 years and be an expat in another country for that period of time and you're living solo, like, it's a very unique experience. And this even reminds me that I started a blog called 20-something flight attendant .blogspot.com, because I thought, you know, being a flight attendant is one thing, being 20-something is another thing, you know, the way you think and behave is like another thing. And then 20-something flight attendant and expat, I was like, that makes for a very interesting life. So I made a blog about it and I forgot about this. And so anyway, that's why I started my YouTube channel and built it on the premise of my flight attending life. But there was another kind of interest to that. My interest was this. The role that I'd wanted to get into was marketing, but I lost count of how many resumes I sent in which were not entertained. I assume it's because of my the experience. It lacked experience in marketing, and I literally thought to myself, if I can't tell them that I understand marketing, I'm just going to show them. I'm going to go on YouTube and I'm going to build a community and I'm going to do something. And that was the driver. There was nothing more appealing to me than to do something that I love, that helps people, and also build a career like of my dreams. AKA get paid for what you love. Whoo! Woo! That put me on a whole new trajectory. So it was like these moments that took place before the YouTube channel started. And there were other flight attendants who started a channel around the same time that I did, and they've grown rapidly to huge communities. Whereas mine, after about 1 year, it was good, but it was nowhere near anyone else's growth. And I used to look at this and go, am I doing the wrong thing or whatever? But in reality, what happened was I grew the channel from 0 to about 20,000 in about 6 months. It was almost 20,000. It was like 18,000. And it was crazy because when I looked at my phone, I thought it was broken, because it was like subscribers every day. And I was like, oh my gosh, when does this end? Does it end? I don't know. And it just kept on going, and it went for about 7 days. Around this time, I also joined my very, very first personal development course. In this personal development course, I learned a lot about myself. But before I learned a lot about myself, I actually thought I was broken. I remember signing up, and I remember sitting at the desk. Oh, when I was sitting at the desk, it was weird because I sat through the presentation, and then I knew, I was like, oh, this is the moment that they're selling to us. I was like, this is such a hardcore sales thing. And I was watching it, knowing that it was a sales thing, but there was a piece of paper and a pen, and I thought about it for a bit, and I was like, okay. I signed up. Went to the back of the room, I signed up, and then I started talking to someone else who I went with to that presentation, and then I just looked at, I didn't even know this person, like we met that day, and I looked at her and I started crying, and I said, I don't know why I'm crying, I don't know, but I am scared that I'm gonna find out that I'm broken, or I'm up, something like that. And now that I'm talking about it, I realize that was my very first breakthrough. That was an inner thought which came out to the surface, and I'm blur, and I cried. I did the personal development course. It went for 3 days. Three days. If I told you it was 13 hours, you'd go, Christine, that's so long. 3 13-hour days. What? Plus another half day. But seriously, I was in there, like, it went so fast. And part of me resisted quite a lot. Like, so many times I was like, this isn't for me, my life is good, I've worked hard for my life to be where it is now, I'm gonna leave, even though I made the investment already in money and time. And they say, you know, maybe you just have to look a bit deeper. And I got offended, because I was like, why does it feel like people want me to look so deep into my life? It's like finding problems when no problems exist. So even though it was like 3 days, this forum, I almost left on the second day. Like the second day was almost done, and I went to one of the guys at the front and I said to him, I think I'm gonna go home now. I'm not getting it. This isn't, I'm very happy for the people in there getting what they want and getting something, but I can't seem to relate. And in reality, I kind of feel like it's making me look for problems where there are no problems, and I'm happy with my life. And then he talked to me for a little bit, and I still said, no, I think I'm still gonna go. Deep down inside, I think I wanted him to sell me on sell me on the idea of staying. And I said to him at the end, I said, okay, you've done this, right? You've done this program, you've done the other program. Like, why did you do it? What did you get out of it? And he goes, well, similar with you, I was happy in my life. I am a photographer. And back then I used to be a photographer for families. I do portraits and things like that. But ever since having completed this curriculum, I now work with the National Geographic, and I have a self-sufficient charity in Africa. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go back inside then, because that's what I wanted, I guess. I mean, he was like me, a photographer. What are the chances that I spoke with him out of all the people there? Do you believe in manifestations? Do you believe in law of attraction? Do you believe in things working out for you the way they should? Yeah, that was a moment for me. I went right back inside, ended up signing up for the second program and then the third program. As a result of the third program, I ended up running a community project in the Philippines. Yeah, I flew to the Philippines. I had 5 guest speakers where we talked about how failure was a step forward. They say failures, but they're really learnings. That program, oh my God, that's probably one of the biggest, most life-changing things that I have ever done in my life. I knew as well that it was going to affect me in the long run, but I didn't realize the gravity, like the depth at which it was going to affect me moving forward. And it was because of that program that I've made a lot of, like, things have panned out for me the way that they have. Fast forward to, I've started a YouTube channel, and then the company that I work for, that department becomes redundant because it was a new department, right? So like, we discovered that there was actually no need for that department. I applied for a redundancy. My boss said, don't go. He goes like, what are you gonna do? I was like, I don't know. I feel like I can do something with this thing, like my YouTube. And so I took redundancy. He goes, I don't even think you'll get it. He goes, you perform too well. And they're looking at this from a performance standpoint. But like I said, you could apply, so I applied and I got it. Please know that when I was in that call center job, because our department was very quiet and we had access to the internet, I would study everything that I could. Everything. Like when we were in between calls, some people would read magazines, sometimes we would have a chat with each other, and many times I would be on the internet reading blogs as to what I could do. I read a lot about online businesses. I learned about starting like a product brand. I read a lot. So of course, by the time I resign or take this redundancy package, even though I was only there for a year, of course, when you get a redundancy package, you get paid out. And that meant that I didn't have to go into my savings to forward myself in life. I had this severance package. So the very first thing that I did was I watched some videos, blah, 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 which led to me buying an online course which teaches you how to start a social media marketing agency. Now, to people's eyes out there, it made sense to them that I was starting an agency. And this is before there were many social media marketing agencies. Like, I promise you, there are so many more now than there were 3 years ago. But to people, it just made sense that I was starting one. Why? Because I had used YouTube successfully to grow a community, and that was growing my Instagram and my Facebook. So it was good. It was good. It was like easy for me to sell if I wanted to sell. When I built the social media marketing agency, I realized that I knew nothing about business, and even though I had the online course which taught me what to do, like the steps to take, I realized that I didn't have a lot of experience in structure. So I called someone. I said, hey, you know this person, what do they do? And she goes, go to her workshop and you'll find out. Okay, so I go to the workshop and I find out, and I love this lady's energy. So I signed up for the program. $8,500 later, I'm in the program. The program did not give me what I wanted. It gave me what I needed. And let me tell you, that's how life will always work out. You seek something and you'll get it some way or another. And for me, what I needed came in the guise of a coach and a coaching program. To be honest with you, I didn't even know what the program was. And to be honest with you, I didn't even know what coaching was. I just thought that I was going to get this system that was going to teach me how to run my business. And part of this program involved using Facebook. The funny thing was, I was already doing this before I joined the program. And if I knew anything about what I was actually looking for, I would have realized that I was already doing what I needed to do. So it's very clear that I wasn't here for marketing. I was here for some life lessons which would not have come to me had I not signed up. That's why I really feel like there are no real mistakes in life, because if you really tune in to what you're getting in any situation that you're in, you're going to start to find gold. Gold isn't always so obvious. It's not on the surface. It's like if you look for it, you find it. And sometimes you find golden nuggets. And when I look at this experience, I look at it and I kind of go, without that, I wouldn't have propelled into the next step. So anyway, I was using Facebook all the time, and I met this person who then later down the track became my business partner. Storm. She owns Case Media. Oh my God, this was the beginning of a whole new whirlwind, a whole new direction. You know, in my Instagram posts, I always talk about pivoting. Well, this is another pivot, and you're going to keep hearing me talk about these massive pivots every step of the way. So, oh my God, this was the beginning of a new love. It was really a love story. It was really a love story. I first hired her to work on one of my clients' accounts. I had a client in my social media marketing agency. I needed someone to do some copywriting or writing, whatever, for the website, and I hired her. But we didn't meet because I hired her. We met because she saw me in a Facebook group doing a Facebook Live. And she said, hey, do you want to do a virtual coffee? And I was like, yeah. And we rescheduled a few times because it didn't work out. But in the end, we ended up having a virtual wine. And I really liked her. And then after that, that's when I hired her for my client. She doesn't even live in the same city. She has to fly over to be here. She eventually ended up flying to Brisbane, and then we met in real life, and we both deep down inside knew where it was going. We knew that we were going to start a business partnership. Anyone more mature than us at the time would have known that that was highly likely not going to work out. And the short story is that the partnership did not work out, but our relationship did. We did so many things together. We had so many dreams for that company, and they were united, and we worked our asses off. But the good part of this story was then it was no longer just me. Like, the challenges that I had in building my own social media agency wasn't just me anymore. It was two of us. The challenge was when we didn't agree on the direction. And at the time, I wasn't used to disagreeing. Before this, I was such a people pleaser. Before this, I would hold my frustration in and not say it out. And this partnership taught me how to deconstruct my frustrations before I talk. And also it taught me how to speak without being angry, because I already worked it out first. And oh my God, it was only a 6-month partnership. Like when I talk about it, I laugh because I'm like, what the hell, 6 months? But that's what it was. Yeah, towards the end, we kind of, we realized that well, especially for me, I can only speak for myself. So I'm not saying especially for me, I'm saying me because I'm speaking on my behalf and I'm not speaking on Storm's behalf. But I started to realize that the business model that we were building was not the business model that I wanted. So going back to that point where I was talking about that I needed like a business coach to give me structure, What I meant by structure was I wanted to understand the business model that I was growing. I wanted to understand the business model that I wanted. So, because back then I had no experience and I had no language and I had no point of reference for what it was that I wanted, I was just picking anything. Here's a business, what do I need next? Structure. Boom, boom. What does structure look like? Spreadsheets? Maybe a program for accounting? That's what I thought structure was, but I wasn't even there yet. The structure that I was actually looking for was the ideal business model. Took me 6 months and a few $1,000s to learn that. I'm going to keep saying the dollars and the time because I think it's a good point of reference. I think when people talk about business, you automatically think, oh, maybe she made money, maybe she has money. But based on my observations, I think people focus on like maybe that you already come from money, or you make a lot of money, or you're really good at what you do, you never failed, or your growth happened by accident, or it was just like the natural progression. And maybe it is the natural progression, maybe it's maturity, but for me it was literally dollars and hours. Dollars, which meant that I was dedicated, because it's like once you pay, you are dedicated, because you kind of feel like you're accountable for something, you know. And that's how I took my wellness. That's how I saw my wellness. That's how I saw my growth as a serious thing. Because you may or may not already know that in like my general outlook in life is very lighthearted, but that comes from a very deep place. Yeah, it only took me about 6 months and a lot of work to discover that an agency was not what I wanted. And at the time, you know what was my gauge? My gauge was whether I had time to make a YouTube video or not. Like literally that was my benchmark. And when I found that the more clients we got, even though technically it meant we made more money, I was not excited. I was not excited to go to business meetings. I was not excited. I knew that I was doing certain things, but I wasn't fired up by it. So towards the end, I realized I had to address something which was true. And what the truth was is I didn't want to be in the business, and therefore I didn't want to be in the business. I didn't want to be in a partnership. That was a hard one to swallow. That was a hard one to swallow and a hard one to confront. When I realized this, I had thought about it over and over again, and eventually I said, I'm gonna have to tell Storm. Storm was in Brisbane at the time, and we were at a cafe, and it was the worst. I basically said I didn't want to be in the partnership anymore, and there were tears, and it was just like this complete feeling of indifference. It felt like the feeling of indifference, because by now I'd been building the agency by myself for about 8 months, and then 6 months with a partner. So my year, I know it only sounds like just 1 year, but imagine living in your year right now and being consumed by what you're consumed by every single day. And that's what it was. I was consumed by the business. I was consumed by getting the goals. I was consumed by the next step. I was consumed because I was so hungry to learn. I was so hungry for the next step. I was just so hungry for what it was that I thought I was building. It was still daytime when I went home, and I was exhausted, so I took a nap. This is a pivotal moment, another one of those life-changing periods. I took a nap, then I woke up and I turned on my phone to have a look at it, like look at the time. And at this time, I was not really using Facebook that much, but I opened Facebook and I saw this video by Gabby Bernstein. The video was like a 30-second video. It just said, choose fun. And for me, it was the greatest confirmation that the decision that I had made, even though it was rough at the time, was the right one. One of the things that Storm and I had to nut out was who was going to get the company. And at the time, I thought she didn't want it. I thought it was going to be me who was going to keep the business. So when I learned that she had also had interest in it, it wasn't what I was expecting. Anyway, after I woke up from this nap and I saw that video, it dawned on me. I said, the business is not for me. I wouldn't even know what to do with it. And I sent Storm a long ass text message explaining why the business was for her. And she also didn't know how to take it, because I think at this time she wasn't even sure as well if she wanted the business. Now she owns Case Media, so years down the track, Case is now run and owned by Storm. and she's been nominated for 2 business awards, one which is national and one which is local, like one in her area. Like, what the hell? Talking about having what is for you. And we're still business besties to this day. I think that taught me a very big lesson in life, which is when you choose the people around you, sometimes it's not necessarily for the function that they're going to fulfill, it's for the heart that they have. Because I had heard of a lot of business partners part ways, and it just getting so ugly. But for me at this time, even though we are just beginners, even though we didn't have a lot of money to float for, be like, this is the value of that, this and at the very least, we kept our relationship intact. So Storm and I part ways, and I'm part of this business networking group. This was a challenge for me because talking about the fact that I cared about what people thought of me and my business at the time, I was really scared. I can say this now, but at the time I would not have addressed it. I experienced a lot of fear in showing up to that networking group filled with professionals in the corporate world and tell them that I was no longer in a social media marketing agency. Because that's what I'd been telling them for at least 3 months. Look at this stuff that I was worrying about. It's so insignificant, but back then it was like boulders on my shoulder. So I said, you know, instead of quitting the networking group, because I used to pay a membership, go there every Tuesday, and spend a lot of hours in that group, I think to myself, instead of telling them that I don't run an agency, I'm just going to say that I have a consultancy. So it meant that I wasn't going to take clients on a monthly retainer basis for their social media. It meant that I was going to solve their social media and marketing issues, create reports and whatnot for them. Wow. I didn't realize that that was gonna take about a year of my life. Not take, but I did invest a whole other year in building a whole other business which I had no intention of doing. This is important because there were moments, there were hints, you know, there were hints. Like, one of the key reasons I stepped out of the social media marketing agency is because I no longer wanted, first of all, I didn't want an agency model. Like, I realized that that model was not for me. Second of all, because I started to realize that I enjoyed being a content creator, I took every spare moment that I had to make YouTube videos. If that is not a clue enough as to where I really wanted to be and what I wanted to spend my time doing, that should have been it. But I was still operating on the fear of what people thought of me, and therefore this happened. But it wasn't all bad. There was actually a point where I was driving to a meeting where I was about to have like a new business coach, and in the car I had 2 thoughts. One of them was like, well, I want to be a blogger, I want to be a full-time blogger, maybe this is not necessary. And then the other side of me still said, no, like maybe that's just fear creeping in, and you should just go. You know, you committed yourself to what you've made the meeting, just go. Because at the time, I'll tell you, my intuition was not as sharp as it is now. Now it's very clear to me. And this is why I will say to you all the time, like, whatever you think or feel at the time, act on it, and only then will you find out. And only then will you be able to sharpen your intuition and your instincts. But at the time, my instinct was sharp, but it wasn't where it is now. So had I had this feeling now, I would say, no, it's not for me. But this time I was like, should I go? Because I kind of feel like I don't really need this. It's not relevant to where I want to go. Or should I just go? Bite the bullet and go. You always learn something. So I went, and yeah, for that year I ended up building a training and consultancy. Great. You should see the amount of documents and PDFs and reports I have in my computer. Literally, like, probably the longest report I made was 78 pages long. When I think about it, I'm like, I don't know how I did that. But I was still traveling. It was a job that allowed me to be mobile, although, yeah, it was very theory based. I was sitting in front of a computer writing reports, which wasn't my intention. My intention was to be sitting in front of the camera making content, or being behind the camera making content. So you can see those are very different worlds. Although I met some really good people. So again, there was no real mistake here, because there are some people in my life now that I never would have met had I not done the first business coach or the consultancy. And these are people that honestly, like, some of them are my clients now, and I am operating as a photographer and content creator. Like, they come to me and they know that I've changed my business and whatnot, and they come to me and they're hiring me for these dream projects that I have. And it happened during those two mistake businesses. The other thing is that I really grew my confidence a lot. In that networking group, you wouldn't imagine, but one of the things that we were supposed to do was, like, every week you stand up and you talk about yourself for a minute. And my God, my public speaking fear was so intense. And it wasn't just intense. The problem was I could mask it. I could mask my fear with humor. I found it easy to be a likable person. However, being liked didn't mean that I had confidence. And I did not distinguish the difference between being liked and being respected. I thought that if people like you, that they respect you. But I guess in the world of, like, business, where people can rely on you and see you as a serious person, you know, someone to not with, I don't know if that was who I was at the time. Back then, I was too busy trying to be liked. This is important. Too busy trying to be liked. So as a result of that networking group, I met people that I worked for. I grew my confidence level higher and higher again. So seriously, this is now the second year that I'm constantly working on my weaknesses. My weaknesses were, like, public speaking, having, what is it called? Eloquence when delivering a message in public. But it was happening, and it was happening through the guise of my coaches, who I thought I hired for a business, but were actually from my personal development. Also, I got I rented a workspace, so now I had accountabilities, I had more bills to pay, and that felt good. It felt scary, but good. Towards the end of the year, though, this was the hard one to swallow. Like, in honesty, in all of this story, which I'm really summarizing the last 5 years of life, I've had many breakdowns. They're becoming less and less frequent. These days, it's more celebrations than it is breakdowns, but my breakdown was really rooted in seeing myself fail. I would see myself as a failure. So when I discovered that social media consulting and training was not where I wanted to be, I was now embarrassed. So the first time around, it felt sad, because I felt like disconnected from my path. I felt lost from my path. I felt just those kinds of feelings. Were uncertain, didn't know where I was going. It was more sadness and more, not so much disappointment, but more just like floating. Like indifferent. I felt very indifferent. The second time around, when I had invested my all and my time and even got a workspace and publicized it, that's when I felt shame. I felt, and I'm saying this not because I want sympathy. I'm saying this because maybe someone can relate to the idea of giving your heart and soul to something, whether it might be a business, a degree, or something, a project. But I gave my heart and soul to that, and this holds a lot of gravity, because when I put my heart and soul into things, and I have a partner as well, he's obviously affected by my decisions, and you know, we're a couple wanting to grow a future together, a strong, solid, happy future. And I always felt like when you're with someone who's not certain of where they want to go, it impacts the speed at which your relationship can go anywhere. And I'm not talking about marriage and kids. I'm just talking about a place that is a lot more stable, fun. We're here now, but out of these 5 years that I'm summarizing, first 3 years was it was work. I'm not even gonna lie. My partner had started his own business. I had started a couple of my own. We both started at the beginning, or what some people would call the bottom. We started from the bottom, and when you're both grown adults starting from the bottom, learning what new work is like, you're just like, damn son, this is hard. Burnout, lack of assurance, lack of clarity, all that stuff. It happened at the same time within the same household, and we just kind of did our best to still enjoy each other. I mean, we enjoyed each other's company, but we had to make a conscious effort. This is a whole different conversation. It's about relationships and the effort, the work that we put in for love, because we love each other. So now it was the feeling of embarrassment that I had stopped my second business, and Billy said to me, I cried again. 3 main moments that I cried. The first time when I stopped social media agency, and I remember heaving in our guest bathroom. I was crying so hard. I was just like proper. I remember thinking to myself, this is failure. This is the feeling of failure. And then my higher self came up, was like, yeah, this is failure, so that when you get to the place that you're wanting to be, you can talk about this moment, so that anyone else who experiences this knows that they're not alone. But I heaved in that bathroom for about 30 minutes, and I felt like I just didn't know how to pick myself up. The second time that I did it, it was harder. Was that harder? It's pretty hard. It was because when you pair on top of like feeling a little bit confused, and you pair it with like shame, which was self-imposed, by the way, it becomes a heavier weight. And I just didn't know what to do with myself anymore. I thought, should I just get a job? This isn't working out for me. Like, I'm just too stubborn. I just don't know. Nothing that like I pour my heart and soul and it's not working out. And my partner just said to me, babe, why don't you just get a casual job, get a part-time job, just something so that you can just take your mind off things. And at first I thought it was a ludicrous idea, because again, my ego popped up, and my ego was like, you're better than that. You don't need to get a job. And I was like, and then the other part of me was like, you're not good enough for that job. It was like this weird dynamic of 2 voices, which were both my ego. One was like, you're too good for that. The other one's like, you're not good enough for that. Thank God by this time I had harnessed some self-awareness and started to really understand when this ego and fear was popping in. Those are the words that I'm going to use. You can use whatever words you think are best to describe that fear mechanism when when you think you're too good for something or you're not good enough. That's generally not the best place to come from. But by now I could identify what that was. So I said, I'm not going to listen to you or you. I will go get a job. Got a part-time job at a fashion company, and I chose this fashion company because I was like, okay, well, what do I like? And I was like, I like people. I was like, I like fashion, and also people always ask me to style them. So I want to learn about the fashion industry without having to go to school and without having to take anything so seriously. The beauty about part-time and casual is you could go and learn and get paid for it. Like, this was again hard to swallow, cause again, it's just so crazy. I need to tell you this because right now I'm in a very good place, but to get here you got to know the steps that happened before this. Again, I was worried about what people would think of me if they saw me in that job. I was worried that I was going to be in that job forever and that I was veering off from my goal, and I thought, oh, this is just a temporary job, I should just look for another forever job because like nothing's working out for me. But you know what, in honesty, it was the best. I learned. I dress better now than I ever have, and this company taught me a lot about sales. So being a flight attendant, it's a different kind of job, right? It's service and travel. Having a business is all about sales. No matter what business you have, if you have a business, you are selling, and this business taught me how to sell. Like, really get out of my comfort zone. I had to start approaching people when I thought I was being annoying. But I've changed. I've changed since then. It taught me how to get out of my comfort zone and do the things that I need to do to get results. It's not about feelings, it's not about anything, it's about results, and at the same time looking stylish. So let me tell you about this moment that changed everything. New trajectory. So I was on set for a photo shoot and I was in front of the camera, but I've had experience being behind the camera. The other person that was being photographed was quite uncomfortable. There were so many people directing her what to do, and it was like this busy environment. And then when I got home, I had this idea and I was like, I should run a posing and photography workshop, because I think now that social media is abundant, a lot of business owners realize that they need to be in front of the camera, or it's going to be very helpful for them to be in front of the camera, but they don't have the confidence. What if we ran a workshop that would solve that? I knew that this would help because I'd been that person who wanted to be in front of the camera but just didn't know how to, even though I had been a photographer and even though I'd worked with models. When it was my turn to be in front of the camera, I was like, "Okey's." So that's when it started, and I approached another photographer and I said, "Hey, do you want to run this workshop with me?" Like, yes. It was the easiest thing we'd ever really done. Oh, talk about the path of least resistance. When you go down the path of least resistance, things can still get hard, yes, but when you know the definition of hard, as in like bawling your in like the guest bathroom, this level of hard is nowhere near as hard. It's all good, you go with it. Started the posing and photography workshop, realized, damn, I've always loved photography, I'm gonna go back into that. And I thought, oh, what are people gonna think? I've stopped photography. No, I was like, no, fuck it. Now is not the time to think about what people think. So yeah, I just started advertising my photography and I started getting clients. No problems at all. It was like the easiest thing to talk about, the easiest place to get clients. It was like, again, when you go in the direction that you're supposed to go to and you're aware of it, you can rejoice in a little bit more. Anyway, so I went back into photography. Now, this is probably going to be one of the last most pivotal changes. One day I was editing photos in the spare bedroom, editing, and I could feel myself really investing in this photography business, like all of my time, all of my marketing, like same thing as what I had done with the consulting business and the social media marketing agency, setting up these systems. And instead of rushing into it, this time I said, universe, give me a sign if this is where I should spend all of my time and effort. And this is really where I'm going to dedicate myself to, being a photographer. Am I to be a photographer? As I asked that question, I knew that I was asking it because I wasn't sure. Anyway, I even said, I'd like to see a green frog. If I'm supposed to be a photographer and that's where all my energy is going to go, show me a green frog. I don't know if that sounds crazy to you, but in all of these 3 years where I told you I've done a lot of different therapy, coaching, etc., etc., one of the things that I love the most is really practices around spirituality and meditation. And I always get what I want when I meditate and I ask. And so that's what I did. I asked. 2 days had passed, I saw nothing. And then I had lunch with a girlfriend and I said to my girlfriend, I feel like I've unlocked the door and I'm on the other side and I'm just going to see what's there. It's so weird. Like, I was like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like literally like I've opened the door, like I've turned the knob, opened, and I'm about to see what's there and I don't know what it is, which is very different from the message that I told my coach the year before. I said to my coach the year before, I feel like I've got my hand on the door and I'm about to open it. And I forgot that I even told him that. I forgot completely. But instead now I'm like, I felt like something had unlocked. Boom, something had unlocked and I was about to find it. Okay, fast forward. I'm driving home and then all of a sudden I hit this like mad long traffic. Super long, and I use my phone as GPS. So my phone is sitting like here on the air vents of my car, and I hear this ding, this message come in. It's not a message, it's an email. It says travel show host. I had two thoughts: how exciting, and that looks like spam. I didn't believe it, got home, read it, and I was like, long story short, it looked like an email that said it didn't say the names, but I was like, that sounds like Netflix and Airbnb combined. But I was like, nah. I even replied to the email and I was like, yeah, sure, like that sounds really exciting, let's have a chat. As it turns out, it was a casting company for Netflix who had seen my flight attending videos and were casting me for a travel show. What? Oh my god. Anyway, so my mind was blown. I didn't realize the gravity of it. Like at the time I was super cool, super cool. And I told one of my friends, Eva, the one who at the beginning of the story told me to start the YouTube channel. I said to her, I think this is Netflix and I think it's Airbnb and Netflix combined. And she goes, whoa, that's awesome, that's really good. And then later down the track she goes, are you nervous for your interview? I had not thought about this conversation with that company as an interview until it was said, are you nervous for the interview? And I was like, oh my god, this is an interview. I'm nervous, of course. And so when the interview happened, I was cool, calm and collected, but I don't feel as though I said the things that I wanted to say properly. For the first 2 weeks of it happening, I was, as much as I tried to not think about it, I thought about it. Of course I thought about it. It changed my life. Little did I know it was already changing my life. For the first 2 weeks, I was anxious because I was like, oh my god, if I get it, this is what's going to happen, blah, 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 blah. And I just thought of all the possibilities. And then I started getting sad because I was like, oh, if I don't get it, then this is not going to happen. What the hell? We're so complicated, you know? Then I let it go. I emailed them because I thought that they were going to tell me the result within that time frame. But turns out I misunderstood. So I said, oh, any updates? They said, no updates, but we'll get to you as soon as we do. And when they got to me, it was like 10 p.m. Brisbane time, and I read the email. Unfortunately, we've decided to go in a different direction. However, we look forward to working with you in the future. And no word of a lie. No word of a lie. I was so okay with that. I actually became okay with the result after that 2-week period when I had emailed them to find out the result. It's like I just had to let it go. But the reality is I very, 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 very well knew the purpose of this. You know how I asked for a green frog to show me where my attention was going to go in terms of like work? Like, should I be a full-time photographer or is there something else? I always knew there was something else, and that's to be in front of the camera, just be with you guys. Honestly, like, this is where I am most, I love being a photographer, but this is like the cherry on the cake. I love this shit so much. It's fun for me. But I guess I couldn't really admit it at the time. Just because as a logical person, I'd always try to think of more logical ways to make a living and whatnot. And I just couldn't see how I could do it by being more on the camera, by chatting with you guys all the time. When I asked for a sign for the green frog and I didn't get one, I literally got a sign in black and white that pretty much translated to what would be a dream job. So anyway, the reason why I say that that changed the trajectory of life is because it was at that moment that I said, yes, I'm still gonna do photography, but it's not where I put 100% of my time. I'm gonna still dedicate my time to being here on YouTube, and I wanna level up. I wanna level up. I want to make better productions. I want to share more with you. There's so many times that I have thoughts in my mind and I think to myself, oh, I wish I could share that with them. Like, I wish I could make that into a video and share that with them, because so many of these learnings that happen, they happen in my physical life, and I feel like if I were to share them in a similar format that what my personal development courses had done, like it could impact you in a positive way. I know that sounds super cheesy. I know it sounds super cheesy, but I know that sometimes people just need a push, or sometimes people just need to hear a story that gives them an idea that it's possible for them too. It was like me. When I saw a girl that I knew do well on Instagram and YouTube, it was like a signal for me that I should start, that it was something that I was interested in. And it's always been on the back of my mind to be able to provide that and pay forward the things that have worked out for me and pay it forward to the next person who's watching this, who's been looking for that, who's supposed to receive this message. It's been important for me. This has been on my mind for so long. I've been wanting to tell you the behind the scenes. I think this year has been incredible. This year has been a year where I do what I love most times, and this is the year that I have clarity and I have more humility than I did before. It's a nice feeling. I guess one of the reasons why I've been itchy to make this video is because I talk about tips and tricks and the things you can do to get to your next stage and how things are going to work out, but I've never really gotten into the nitty-gritty of what it's been like. You know, just because you change your car, just because you change your business, doesn't mean that everything's just going so well. Every time, like sometimes I see friends and they'll say, oh, it looks like, you know, you're doing so well. But little do they know, like a lot of the time I'll be up, I work, oh my God, the hours that I work is insane. Like literally, sometimes I have to tell Billy that when he gets home, I'll probably still be on my computer. There are many nights that Billy will go to bed before I do, and I'll go to bed at like 11 or 12 because I'm still on my computer. And then the next day I get up, then I want to, you know, like it's just, it's not it's not as smooth as it appears on the front, but I'm happy for the way things are right now because it's not smooth, but it's delicious. And before it wasn't smooth either, and it was all new. So I want to kind of like, so the reason I started YouTube after Emirates is because, well, basically no one else wanted to hire me, and I thought I'm going to show them. I work now with hotel brands, I work now with fashion brands. People now see the opportunity in working together, whereas before it's like I felt like I didn't know how else to prove myself. I felt like I was constantly having to prove myself, and still now I still want to provide good service and like amazing work, but it's good to just not have to constantly need to prove yourself and to just do the work. You know, it's just nice to be in that place. It's nice to work with dream clients and do your dream job. And it's possible. It's possible as long as you're willing to say yes to the things that might scare you, as to say no to the things that you are very well aware don't serve you. But also, I'm not saying it's polarized. It's not just yeses and nos. Sometimes you're going to be in a situation where you can't just leave your job. You know, maybe you're in a job and you need to be in that job. It's like finding the joy in that scenario, whether it's just like, you know, it might appear to you that they're tiny little joys and they're nowhere near as juicy and as fun as where you want to be. But when you can harness the ability to find positive things in difficult situations, trust me, when the juicy shit comes down the line, it's like I was like, it's like you're dancing on a rainbow. It is, because if you can find the joys in something that you thought there was no joy to be found, you'll be amazed at how the universe rewards you. I believe that this is how manifestations come sooner rather than later. It's because you're starting to tune into the right things rather than wasting your time tuning into the wrong things. And that's a practice. When you are in the thick of it all, in the thick of your workload, in the thick of feeling like you're running out of time, in the thick of things not being ideal, sometimes you might feel like you're in the thick of things happening to you that you did not choose, you know, things that are happening to you because it wasn't your choice. When you're able to find and focus on the things that you do choose, like your mood, like the lessons, things come faster. So it's been 5 years and now we're here. So now what can you expect? Well, you can expect the same stuff that you've been seeing over the last 3 years, but better quality, more consistent. Oh, am I putting my foot in this? No, honestly, my goal has been to be available, like be here with you guys at least twice a week. And maybe sometimes we'll talk about life, you know, those lessons, because oh my gosh, tell you what, if you're looking to enjoy life more, a lot of it will come from your internal state. But of course, we're also going to talk about the external state, like travel. Travel is just so juicy, isn't it? Fashion, photography, hotel life. 7 years of living out of hotels really does teach you certain things about hotel life, and how to get the best of it and how to find the best ones too. Anything that will help you get the best out of your experience of life. I'm going to teach you how to learn it like a local, taste it like a tourist. Tourists have these funny rose-colored glasses, you know. They have a great way of seeing things. And locals have the insight to some of the things that they don't put on those tourist magazines. So that's it. That's the truth. That's the truth about my journey. That's the truth about how I've seen myself over the last 3 years. And that's the truth of where this is going. Anything else? I want to know, was that what you expected? Everything that I told you? This is probably the most open that I've been, and most detailed. Let me know. My microphone died because this is so long. But I'll see you in the next video. You know the next video? I think it's going to be a photography one. And then after that, sorry, I just didn't mean to clap at you like mad, but I'm like excited. After that, you're going to see some leveled up content. My gosh, I'm so excited to show you. So please stay tuned for the upcoming videos. You're going to see some changes. You are going to see some changes. Turn on your notification bell because you're not going to want to miss what's just like the leveled up that I've been. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next amazing ones. Bye.